going to set this up right there. Okay. Make sure this works. Awesome. Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Avery Konda, and my GeD Talk is about why measuring social impact is more important than ever before. And so let's start off with that why first. Why is that important? After sifting through a couple scientific journals on the idea of social impact being important to measure, these were the four most important pillars that I could find on why is it important. Number one, it encourages us to define what impact is. Does the impact we create benefit positive change? Two, it helps us stay true to our mission. Are we following through on our original commitments and what we're meant to do? Three, it creates integrity in social markets. And what this means is there equity for everyone in the market to succeed? Or are there social stigmas that allow some others to succeed more than others? And four, impact evidence creates value. We can create true replicable value when we measure social data and we have that data to showcase to the world. Now, I'm a firm believer that negative social drivers do exist in the world today, and many of them in plain sight. But we don't tend to see them because we're busy, we're inundated with life, and sometimes they just don't affect us directly. A few examples are food insecurities, poverty, and gender inequities. Now, these are very, very real ones, but the one I'd like to target today is why I believe poverty is one of the worst negative social drivers that exist. Poverty is majorly impacted by societal challenges, systemic social classes, racism, and much more. And these are all negative social drivers that perpetuate the cycle of poverty. I'm going to go back. I myself, as a white cisgendered male, from middle to upper class, I have the opportunity and the privilege to live virtually free of racism, to feel safe in my own community, to have copious amounts of professional opportunity, and really don't have to worry about the necessities of life, right? Water, food, and health. I live a plentiful and grateful life, but there's many people in the world that don't. And a lot of it comes back to that systemic problem of poverty. So I want to provide a few examples on how these negative social drivers exist in the world today. But when we begin to understand them, we can understand their rawness and their realness in the world. So in 2012, the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, were created by the United Nations in Rio de Janeiro. There were 17 goals that were created based on evidence, based on data-driven measurements, and highlighting social drivers that exist in the world today. It brought together champions, leaders, agents of change, and change makers throughout the world to begin putting that research together and making an effort to put it under one unified platform. Through the SDGs, some incredible research was done on the negative social drivers that do exist today. Here are a couple of examples. I'll read that for you if you can't read it here, but children from the richest 20% of households achieve greater reading proficiency than those from the poorest 20% of households. In 2011, only around 1/4 of schools in sub-Saharan Africa had electricity, and less than half had access to basic drinking water, and only 69% had access to toilets, with many lacking both girls and boys. Let that sink in for a moment, that these are real-world statistics from 2015 that exist today. These are negative social drivers. Although these statistics might be alarming, here are some examples that show how when we capture this data, we can begin to action positive change in people's lives. So here are a couple examples of how progress has actually been made. And I know those statistics were quite, they are alarming and it might make you feel a little bit bad about it or anxious, but here's some positive change. The number of people living in extreme poverty actually fell from 1.7 billion people in 1999 to 767 million people in 2013. In 2015, 5.2 billion people, now that's 71% of the global population, use safely managed drinking water services. And access to clean fuels and technologies for cooking climbed to 57% in 2014, up from 50% in 2000. When we begin to properly measure social impact and create positive social drivers in the world, we can make sustainable, economic, and socially impactful positive change in the world. and we can lead a new generation of changemakers with the opportunity and solutions to become confident to innovate and action change and equity among all people in the world. Thank you.